If you want to talk about real anxiety, try being in prison. There are few places that I feel really can compete with just how much anxiety you will deal with being locked up. And one thing in particular that's going to cause you quite a bit of anxiety while locked up is taking a prison drug test. Now, you may think to yourself, no big deal, it's just a drug test. But in prison, and for some strange reason, they have a tendency of trying to make these drug tests completely unbearable. And in this video, I'm going to tell you about some of the craziest prison drug tests I ever had to take. First, let me start by telling you about something in prison that is referred to as the hot list. There are a lot of different lists that you can be on while in prison. Known gang members, tattoo artists, gambling coordinators, sex offenders, and also a list that is referred to as the hot list. Now, there are two different ways that you can wind up on this hot list. One, you could fail a drug test while locked up. Or two, you could be caught in possession of drugs while incarcerated. Well, it just so happens that I was on that hot list. And the way that I ended up on that hot list was not for failing a drug test while locked up, but it was the second way, in fact, by being caught in possession of what they considered drugs. I've just recently told the story about when I was being shook down by a prison guard because he came into the cell block, smelled cigarette smoke, thought it was me smoking, searched my stuff, found all sorts of tattooing equipment, but also found in my possession a whole bunch of ibuprofen pills that were not purchasable through commissary, but only available through medical and through a prescription. And how I did not have a prescription for these ibuprofen pills. Well, when caught with those pills, that was a 100 series charge, a major institutional charge that not only stopped all of my good time dead right there, but also, I didn't know this at the time, landed me on the hot list. And what happens when you are on the hot list is either once a month, twice a month, 4 times a month, or even more times a month, you will be called over the prison intercom system to report to various locations all over the prison compound. Guerrero, report to the library. To the library? I don't read any books. And when called to these unseemingly innocent various locations all over the prison compound, you will be in for a major surprise once getting there, because it will be like walking in on a DUI checkpoint. Oh, turn around. We're too drunk for this. It's almost like an ambush that you walk right in on. What you will see are some of the worst prison guards standing there with their latex gloves on, ready to hand you a cup and tell you, you have got 20 minutes to piss in this cup. And no big deal. You've got 20 minutes to fill up this cup. How hard could it really be? How hard could it be? But here is where that anxiety begins to set in. Because it's not just taking a drug test. No, prison and asshole prison guards, they have a way of trying to make this the most unbearable, most agonizing process ever. And the way that they do that is sometimes they will ask you to strip butt ball naked before walking into the restroom with them. And I emphasize them, because it won't just be one guard. It could be as many as 3 or 4 guards in there with you, watching you from every possible direction. Hey, do you really have to be laying on the floor underneath my balls? Is that really necessary? Because in their mind, it must be that you are gonna pop positive for drugs in your system, and you are gonna find some type of a way to try to pass this drug test. These guards will be all over you. I mean, literally, so close to you, you can feel them on your back, breathing on the back of your neck. Dude, what? Do you really have to be that close to me? It was because of some of these crazy situations that I had to go through while being on the hot list, being called to various locations all over the prison compound, to be watched from every direction, feeling like a guard is completely strapped to your back, breathing on the back of your neck, and staring completely at your penis, that I had to create cartoons for this. And this hot list that I was on and these almost traumatic experiences that I had to go through while on it lasted for an entire year. Once, twice, even 4 times a month, being called to various locations to piss in a cup with a prison guard so close to you, it literally feels like his nose is directly on your leg. I mean, dude, can you please back up just a little bit? I suffer from a little bit of performance anxiety, stage fright. Dude, there's no way I'm gonna be able to do this with you right there on my leg. But if there was one time in particular that I consider the craziest drug test that I ever took in prison, it was a time when drugs were found in the locker of a prisoner in a completely different housing unit and building. In some kind of way, this prisoner must have snitched or did something and said that those drugs came from someone in my housing unit. Because what happened was, my entire housing unit was locked down. We were not allowed to leave the building at all. And while locked down, I will never forget hearing prisoners mumble about the possibilities of why we are being locked down. Maybe it's a surprise pizza party just for us. Maybe they're gonna pump chlorine gas through the ventilation system and kill us all. There were a lot of different things prisoners were saying throughout this little lockdown period as to why we were potentially locked down. And yeah, none of those were the reason. In fact, we soon found out why we were being locked down when we saw through the front door of the housing unit coming an entire goon squad of prison COs. A goon squad, the worst of the worst, with their body armor and vests and helmets, coming in there with their shields like they were about to break up a riot. And in tow with one of these prison goon squad members, he was wheeling into the housing unit a gigantic cooler. Maybe it is a prison pizza party after all. No, it wasn't. In fact, that cooler was filled with like 100 little drug test cups. And as soon as they came through the front door of the housing unit, they immediately got to screaming. And when they got to screaming, all hell broke loose in the housing unit. Everybody, get down! Get down on the ground now! Get back to your bunk areas and get on the ground! It was absolute madness inside of here. I'm sitting here the whole time like, what the fuck are they about to do? This is lockdown for an entire housing unit drug test. I have never in my life seen anything like what was going on in this exact moment. COs were flipping over tables. Bloom, bloom, get back to your bunk areas. We're gonna mace the place. I've already been maced one time while locked up. I do not want to go through that experience again. Prisoners, can you please get back to your bunk areas, please? Yeah, I was almost trying to help these guards because I didn't want to get maced. After the madness had somewhat subsided, these prison guard goonies took tables, sat them right in front of the housing unit bathroom, and said, "We are about to drug test the entire housing unit." They began calling bunk numbers in order. While doing so, other prisoners were running around drinking as much water as they possibly could force down because they knew they were going to be dirty. The prison goonies went into the bathroom, started taking prisoners in there, and began this whole housing unit drug test. Now, this was something that did not progress with any type of real speed whatsoever. In fact, this was the slowest thing I have ever had to go through. This took almost an entire day for them to be able to piss the entire housing unit. So you have to imagine that some of these prisoners who were drinking gallons of water trying to flush out their systems, well, they had nowhere to piss, because they weren't allowed into the bathrooms while this whole thing was going on. So what they did was, they would actually go into the corners, open their lockers up, and start pissing inside of bags. Yes, bags. I mean, they were filling up huge chip bags with piss, trying to dump them down the drains inside of the prison housing unit. Oh my God, it smelled like piss all over this housing unit. There was one guy who pissed on himself while waiting. I mean, this guy was dancing around the entire time. I have to piss. Oh! And he pissed on himself. It was an entire day filled with madness while this process was going on. When my number was finally called and I went to wait in the line to go into this bathroom to undergo this traumatic experience that this was sure to be, I couldn't help but notice that there were prisoners bunched up all over the bathroom doors, looking inside of the bathroom. And I'm thinking to myself, what are you doing? I mean, they already have like 5 guards inside of this bathroom, positioned at every possible angle, watching people take a piss. And right outside of the bathroom door stands half of the housing unit peeking over the door. What's going on in there? I'm quite sure you know what's going on in there. When it was finally my turn to go inside of this bathroom, as soon as you walk into this bathroom, there is a shower section to your right that has a wall that separates the showers from the bathroom area. As soon as I walked into the bathroom and I looked over to the shower section, I noticed that there were like 10 prisoners standing back there. And I immediately assumed, which turned out to be correct, that those were the non-performers, the guys who just couldn't go for whatever reason. Quite sure the stage fright was at an all-time high during this. As I walked into the position where they told me I was to take my drug test at, I couldn't help but notice that there was a guy who was sitting in a wheelchair. This was a handicapped guy who was in the housing unit as well. He was sitting in the wheelchair holding the cup in his hand. And as I stood there trying to piss, I will never forget looking over at this handicapped guy in a wheelchair as he tried to stand up to piss and fell right into the wall because he couldn't even hold himself up. So he's leaning into the wall trying to take this piss test. At this point, I'm focused on me trying to take my piss test. And with him leaned into the wall trying to take his piss test, the next thing I heard was... He threw the piss test cup into the urinal. It clanked all over the place until it hit the floor. And he said, "I just can't do it. I can't do it. I have to sit down to piss." The guard said to him, "What did you just say?" "I've got to sit down to piss." "You are going to stand up and take this drug test, so help me God." Meanwhile, me on the other hand, I'm sitting here forced to listen to all of this, see all of this. And I finally said, "Here you go. Here's your cup back. I'm gonna go join them flunkies behind the wall because I can't take this piss test either right now." I was traumatized by everything that I was witnessing with this RoboCop Terminator type prison guard basically bullying this handicapped dude in a wheelchair to the point where this handicapped dude had to literally throw the cup into the urinal, clank all over the place until it hit the floor. And I just could not take it. I could not take that. I was absolutely having a fucking anxiety, panic attack, post-traumatic stress disorder bomb going off inside of me. I mean, this was traumatic. It was. I couldn't take it. I went back behind the wall to the shower area where the rest of the non-performers were standing at. Everyone's standing back there with their head down, feeling ashamed of themselves. I can only imagine feeling like they just couldn't perform. Finally, I had to walk out from behind the wall with my cup. I said, "Hey, I'm ready to do this. Let's go." And I walked right up to that urinal like I owned the place, threw my shirt off because I forgot that was another thing that they wanted you to do. They wanted you to take the drug test with your shirt up to here, holding it with your chin like so, and take this test. Me, on the other hand, I said, "Fuck that. Let's take this drug test." And I took that cup and I went for it. I hope that's gonna work because I almost busted a brain vessel trying to squeeze that out. I grabbed my shirt off the floor, and for me, that was it. Unfortunately though, for others, it just didn't work out as easy as mine did. In fact, I could hear prisoners screaming from the bathroom area after I had taken my test, "I just can't do it! I can't do it with you looking at me!" Oh my God, I can only imagine what that guy's going through back there. And when it was all said and done, like 5 people from the housing unit ended up getting locked up. A few of them were caught instantly for being dirty because they were doing the testing right there on the spot. And a few of them couldn't piss. They just couldn't do it. And they got locked up for failure to provide a urine sample for a drug test. Taking a drug test may seem like an easy thing to do, but taking one in prison, it's not. So the whole point of this is, 1, don't go to prison. And 2, if you do, don't do drugs or end up on the hot list. Hey, look. That's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did so, please leave a like and a comment. Let me know exactly what you think about this. And until next time, enjoy life, the free world. Never take a moment for granted, and make the most of every day. Peace!